Well, hello. Welcome back. This is Monday Motivation, No More Excuses podcast, and I am Sandi Ballard, your host. My website, just in case, if you have just stumbled upon these podcasts, my website is www.growingforward.biz, B-I-Z. Thank you once again for being here. This is week 51. Wow, almost 1 year of doing these podcasts. So I've been asking where you guys are listening, and I've heard even from more of you, Florida, Georgia, Ohio, Texas, California, and the UK. So really appreciate you guys telling me where you're listening. And if you haven't yet, please do that, especially when you're sharing your link, the link to this podcast, post where you're hearing from, as well as, comment and provide feedback on what I'm asking. So I, again, really appreciate you guys listening week after week and continuing to share this, because there is someone out there who has not heard of me, and I'm trying to make sure everyone hears me. Last week was really about determining what you need. It was more than, more money, more clients, one more client, or a trip. I had one actual client tell me she needed her friend's understanding, and that was huge. That was a huge thing for her. And I'll be following up with her to find out if she got that understanding. Or, you know who you are. If you're listening, or when you're listening to this, text me and tell me. Or perhaps this is your reminder to go contact her and get that understanding. For the rest of you, did you figure out what you need? Last week, one of my social media posts was 7 ways to find out what you really need in life. And it was a really cool article. It was almost like I had written it. And one of them, the first one was be selfish. Put you first. A lot of times we do so much, and that was a couple podcasts ago when I asked, do you know when you're doing too much, when you give it your all, and what for? So making sure that you are putting yourself first, it's okay. Because, if you're not happy and things aren't going well for you, that trickles down. Regret nothing was the second one he posted. It is your life. I had another person tell me at the end of every night, he doesn't sleep well, but he sits there and rattles off in his head. He makes a mental list of everything he didn't get done, didn't do well. How could he have done it better? It's like, wow, that is a lot of regret. No wonder you can't sleep. Learning how to let go of that a little bit. Well, and then number 3 on his article was figure out what you need. And that's exactly what we were talking about last week in the podcast. Is it your friend's understanding? Is it family, love, financial security? What else is it? And one of the things he suggested doing was actually making a list of priorities. And I thought that was a really cool way of doing that if you're struggling with figuring out what you need. The next on his list was determine what really bothers you. And when I'm reading actually from the article, you can soar only by pushing back against something you don't want. So figure out what upsets you. Is it your job? Do you hate your job? Does it just suck? Is it your boss? But yeah, so going deeper into that. So what is it? Not that just my job sucks. Is it the actual tasks you're doing? Is it a micromanaging boss? Is it a coworker? Is it the location? So figuring out what it is and how can you fix it? And determine what makes you truly happy. You've only got one life, right? So take a few moments and really think about what makes you happy. Is it owning a business? Is it getting a new job? Is it taking a trip, or just finding more joy, or playing music? Whatever it is, find out what really makes you happy. A lot of times so many people get caught up with their kids and their kids' lives that they forget what they like to do. I actually went through that I let my daughter play softball, and I loved it because I love playing softball myself. But, after she went off to college, it took me a while to regain my hobbies, because I had spent so many years just sitting at the softball diamond, which like I said, I loved. I just had to then think about me and put me first. I had to be selfish, and I had to find myself again. So think about that. And then the next one was, let people around you know what you're trying to achieve. Don't keep your goals and desires to yourself, he writes in this. And I'm like, that is so true, because, why are you keeping it to yourself? Because you're afraid you're going to fail, or you're afraid of judgment, perception? Let people know what you're up to. And obviously stay positive. It's hard sometimes, especially in the gray winters in Indiana here, but, you got to stay positive. It's not always going to go the way you want. And you're not always going to get what you want. So in regards to last week's podcast, what you need is, and, his suggestion to make a list of priorities, see if that helps you understand what you need. And then what's next? Once you determine what you need, what's next? Well, figuring out how to get it, how to make it happen. The how is really where I see people get stumped and many times give up or not even try because it seems so impossible. It just depends on, what your it is. In my second book, How Badly Do You Want It?, which is available on Amazon, you have to determine your it. So determine what you need, then create the plan. And if your it, or what you need, is so daunting or major life-changing, major life changer, I'll say that 10 times. If what you want is so daunting or a major life changer, you have to break it down. I mean, we don't eat our meals all at one time. We eat whatever it is, one bite at a time. So why do we put so much pressure on ourselves to change our lives overnight? How do we expect to do so much so fast, right? But many people do. They want it now. Well, I want things now as well, too, but it's not going to come to me just because I say so. And, I have to do what it takes. Maybe I'm not. Life isn't always Christmas morning. But think about that. Wouldn't it be nice to write your list out of what you need, and you wake up and everything you asked for is a nicely packaged box, or it's just nicely packaged sitting in your living room waiting for you to get up? Well, now that we're adults, what do you have to do to make the things on that list show up on Christmas morning? You got to go get them, don't you? You have to order them, maybe. You have to pay for them. Yes, we have to go get what we want. And sometimes what's on that list is hard to find. Sometimes we think it's not doable or unattainable. And you think, is that person you're attempting to get this for, will they be disappointed if you don't find it? And yep, sometimes life is disappointing. And, that can be part of Christmas morning. Part of life. Disappointment, right? So what do? Do you try? Do you try somewhere else? Do you try harder? Do you ask for help? Do you try another angle? Or do you just give up and tell the person whatever excuse you can come up with? Sometimes that happens. You just can't, the Rolling Stones, you can't always get what you want. But do you feel you've tried as hard as you could? Now make this person who wrote out that list you. Do you feel you've tried as hard as you could for you? Are you giving up on yourself? It's Christmas morning. You walk into the living room. What do you see? How do you feel? So this week, that's what I want you to tell me. How hard are you willing to work for you? How will you get what you need? If you haven't listened to podcast 50, go back and do that now. Write down what you need. Again, the article, the guy's suggestion of creating priorities. And then tell me. So you got to determine what you need. And then email me, sballard@growingforward.biz, or post here, wherever you're listening to this, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, post how will you get what you need? And are you willing to do what it takes? because I heard last week this woman spoke, and I totally just cannot remember her name. But one of the things she lives by is hard is just hard. It's not the end. And I love that. So, what is it that you need from last week, and how hard are you willing to work for you? And what is your how? How will you get what you want and what you need? And if you can't figure it out, by golly, let's do one of those strategy sessions, a half-day intensive session. Because, man, those are like the magic pill. Okay? So, let's do it. Until next week, have a great week. Cheers.